Hi, I'm Amelia, and today we're gonna write together an article at C2 level of English from a CPE exam. I hope you'll find it useful and learn something. Remember, to efficiently practice writing, not only you have to write a lot yourself, but read loads of other texts as well. So today we're gonna be writing, reading, and analyzing. Hope you'll have fun. Here I started drawing up a plan. Since I worked on my computer, it didn't allow me to highlight anything in the picture. I resorted to writing down all the points I had to mention in my article. The article instruction reads: a technology magazine is inviting readers to contribute to a series of articles about our changing relationship with technology. You decided to submit an article about how one piece of technology has affected your life. You should briefly describe why the technology is important to you, explain what people would have done before this technology existed, and assess whether the changes are positive or negative. Write your article in 280 to 320 words in an appropriate style. While writing an article, your style doesn't have to be formal. Don't make it very informal though. It should be natural, but still you should make some room to display a range of writing devices at a high level of English. Here are the points I had to include in my writing. Changing relationship with technology, one piece of technology that affected my life, describe why it's important to me personally, explain what people had done before it was invented, and assess the change, positive or negative. After writing it down, I developed the points with my ideas. I decided on writing about a Kindle reader because at the time of writing this article, I was on the verge of buying one for myself. I had read up on the topic of e-readers and I felt like my head was spilling out ideas on its own. Here are my points I planned on using in the text. One piece of technology that affected my life, e-book reader, affected my study and work and leisure time. Describe why it's important for me personally. Explain on studying, working and leisure time. Explain what people had done before it was invented. Used paper books, obviously. Assess the change, positive or negative. For me, it was positive. Quicker to read, more accessible, cheaper in the long run, easier to carry on, better for the environment. I believe I meant carry around, not carry on. Obviously, I didn't end up using all the arguments I listed, but it's always nice to have a surplus of ideas just in case I needed to add a sentence here and there. I was actually thinking for quite a while on how to start this article, and I decided on opening it with a rhetorical question. It's not a good idea to open every essay and article like that, but from time to time it's okay, if you have a good question. Is there one thing you never felt like you needed, but when you started using it, you can't imagine living without? I know my question is kinda lengthy, but I read it over and over several times and I felt like it was the right opener, so I stuck to it. Then I went on with the introduction, writing about myself. It's great to be specific and personal while writing an article, so the readers can identify with the text. As an avid reader, since I remember I've devoured books one after another. This sentence is not very smooth. I really like the opening as an avid reader, but it just feels like this sentence has two openings, as an avid reader and since I remember. I'm gonna change that in a while. I love the smell of a new copy, the touch of the paper between my fingers, and the fact that a book was always in my bag. Look what I did here. I used two writing tools to create a nice and smooth sentence. First is listing 3 things. 3 is a key number here. I don't know why, but it has a certain effect on our brain. People just like mentioning 3 things in a row. It adds rhythm to the text. Another thing I did was balance. I balanced the sentence by giving examples of all 3 things in a nominative, which means I wrote 3 nouns. I love the smell, the touch, and the fact, and I developed them with a short description. It wouldn't have the same impact if I just wrote, I love the smell of a new copy and the touch of the paper between my fingers. Neither would this. I love the smell of a new copy, the touch of the paper between my fingers, and that the book was always in my bag. Not until I started classes at university did I realize I couldn't comfortably commute with a huge volume on me. In this sentence, I used inversion with negative adverbial, which is an emphatic structure. Moreover, I used volume as a synonym for book, what I believe is worth noting. Next, I went on adding more personal anecdotes on why I decided to switch to an e-book reader. The train I took every day was always crammed with people. Yes, I see the mistake. It should be every day written separately. But what can I say? Everyone makes mistakes, so I actually never corrected that until now when I'm editing this video. The train I took every day was always crammed with people, preventing me from taking a seat. My bag was full of textbooks and a laptop I needed, and I could barely fit my sandwiches. Later, I'll change that sentence quite a bit because it's not as seamless as I'd wish. Now's the time I decided on moving the phrase as an avid reader and using it in a different sentence. In this part, I also used the rule of 3, listing 3 reasons why I had to get a Kindle. The train I took every day was always crammed with people, preventing me from taking a seat. My bag was full of textbooks and a laptop I needed at university, and I could barely fit my sandwiches, so a novel was the only thing I could pass on. As an avid reader, I wasn't going to give up so easily. I thought it was the time to give an ebook reader a chance. 156 words is quite a lot for an introduction, but an article doesn't have to have a strict structure, and I just felt like it started off nicely. Also, I covered the first 2 requirements, describe one piece of technology, and why it's important for me personally. I started the second paragraph with listing advantages of an ebook reader. I wanted to draw readers' attention to the fact that those advantages are significant. That's why I used inversion again. Instead of writing, not only the ebook reader improved the quality of my commute, I wrote, not only did the ebook reader improve the quality of my commute, it also elevated the quality of my studying. At this point, I didn't have any idea how to substitute one quality because this repetition is striking, but later on I'll run through the text again and I'll change all words which are repeated. The first quality ends up being comfort of my commute. Sometimes it's better to put a word that you have in your mind instead of just pausing writing completely because you couldn't find a new synonym. Just go with what you have and then later on you'll get that idea for sure. Since this was my topic sentence, I had to give some details, and again, making your article more personal, you're winning your reader's attention. Classes at university require reading and carrying plenty of handouts. Now, without having to print them all out, I can easily store and use them anywhere I want. The device allows me to highlight certain parts of the text, take notes and search through them quickly in class whenever I want to participate in the class discussion. Again, this sentence is not very smooth. I'll introduce quite a few changes to it down the line. I added the sentence, however, these are not the only advantages of my ebook reader. But shortly after I deleted it, it didn't bring anything new to the text and it was just very weak. Studies show that reading on a Kindle is very quicker than reading a regular book. And I second that opinion. I've noticed that the number of books I was able to get through has significantly increased since I bought my ebook reader. I tried to include several words and phrases which aren't obvious choices. Thus, instead of writing I agree, I typed I second that opinion and get through instead of read. But there are more examples of that throughout the whole article. Now is the time to proofread the whole paragraph again and implement some changes. At this point, I had 287 words, which I was happy about. I could freely write the last closing paragraph, and there was one point from the task instruction I haven't had addressed yet. Explain what people had done before it was invented. Certainly, people read paper books, but I didn't like writing such an obvious thing. Therefore, I took a risky step. I gave examples of what I did when I didn't have my Kindle, at the same time assessing the change as positive, which was also a point I was supposed to include in my text. I'm not sure if the retrospective way of developing this point was a good move, but I just feel like it was something fresh. I still wrote everything that I had to include in the content of my article, but I added a bit of creativity to it. I stand by it, but I believe that some people may not concur with me. Now, when I think of how I was living without my Kindle, I can't believe I put a paper book higher than an ebook reader device. I was convinced that a true bookworm could never leave their house without a book in their bag, take pleasure in a digital copy of their favorite novel, or read till early hours of the morning without having to illuminate the pages with a flashlight. Well, I was wrong. In a second, I'll proofread the text again, and I'll add variety to this text. Instead of a paper book, I'll write a hardback, a paperback, a volume, and a copy. Before writing this paragraph though, I'd already changed an ebook reader to my Kindle e-reader device and the Kindle e-reader. I do sometimes miss the smell of the paper, the touch of the hardback in my hands, and the look of books piling up in the corner of my bedside table. But having weighed all the pros and cons, I will never come back to sabotaging an ebook reader ever again. I'm really proud of this last sentence. I didn't even know I could produce one like that. I assessed the changes, starting the sentence with a participle clause. But having weighed all the pros and cons, I will never come back to sabotaging an ebook reader ever again. This way of putting it shows a higher level of English, and it just suited so well in that spot. And I'm not worried about this but. I believe it suits there well, but I could easily erase it and it wouldn't make a difference. I ended up with way too many words. 111 is risky. You can leave it as it is, and it may be considered a great work, but you're taking the risk of the text being diluted and sentences being irrelevant. That's why I'd advise you to go through your article and the task instruction again and make sure all your words and sentences are relevant. And that's it. Here is a screenshot of my article. You can see how many changes it went through, what it ended up being, and how it differs from my initial plan and the first draft. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something today and good luck writing your C2 articles. Bye.